Welcome everyone back to Tabletop Assault. My name is David and I'm bringing you today first impressions, review sort of thing of the new Space Wolves Codex. We've been lucky enough to get our hands on this codex before the pre-order and before the release, so a very big shout out and a thank you to Games Workshop for allowing us access to this wonderfully written codex. Now I know from reading a lot of forums out there's a few mixed opinions on a lot of the changes that have been teased on Warhammer community and just a lot of changes in general, but you know what, I'm very pleased with the codex. That's my first and honest opinion there. I think these changes needed to happen. I think the changes are a lot of things I personally have been screaming about and asking for the new Space Wolves Codex. I'm really happy to see they've arrived and landed. So a couple of things we're going to talk about in this review today is some general rules that affect the Legion as a whole, some changes to some unit rules, some ability rules, some armor war gear rules, that sort of thing, what my general thoughts are, and I really hope you guys are going to be engaged with us in this video and let us know your honest opinions too. I know there's a lot of Space Wolves players out there, so I want the community to come alive and let us know your honest opinions. So, Space Wolves, first of all, just want to let you know it's a big thing that I'm a massive fan of. It was one of my first ever 40k armies back in the day when I started collecting as a wee tyke, and you know what, they've grown on me. I went away from them for a few years, 7th edition landed and I went back to Space Wolves, 8th edition came along, kind of drifted away again a little bit, wasn't too impressed with the index, but I must admit since then I've gone back into Space Wolves. I now love some of the stuff they've got access to. So, without further ado, I know most of you will know this already, but let's actually have a little chat about some of the new rules that they've got. Now obviously if your army is battle forged, you will have the Defenders of Humanity rule now. We all know what that is, guys. Boots on the ground, you're taking an objective with a troop choice, OBSEC basically. You now have that. We knew it was coming, but we were getting it anyway. More importantly, and the one that's caused a lot of discussion, is they're essentially the Legion trait, which is Hunters Unleashed. Now without going into full details, a brief description, essentially if you charge, are charged, or you heroically intervene, you get +1 to your hit rolls. Wow, that's pretty solid. Secondly, if your character heroically intervenes, he gets to do that at a 6-inch range, not the standard 3 inches. So that's also quite nice, puts a little element of threat into your opponent's charge if you've got that lucky character just kicking about your battle lines. So I really like that, and you'll come to see later on through this video how Hunters Unleashed can actually have a real solid impact on some of the ways you can now play Space Wolves. Essentially combat will be an area of focus because that rule alone impacts the fight phase, not the shooting phase. So your army might be geared towards combat now to take full advantage of your rule. But more importantly, the Codex has had a couple of nice new additions. Basically everything you would expect from a Space Marine Codex you're going to get now in the Space Wolves Codex. So we're talking your Primaris units, so your Primaris characters, that's your Ancients, your Lieutenants, your Captains. We're then talking troop choices, so you've also got your Intercessors. Moving on to other options, you've got your Inceptors, you've got your Reavers, you've got your Hellblasters. There's just a real good option choice there. You've got the Aggressors as well. And that means you're still stacking the same shooting capabilities that the Primaris Force gives, but that added protection that when you're in combat, you're going to get those +1 to your hit rolls, which could be all important, especially for things like Reavers, things like that, or your Captain. But yeah, you've got the Repulsor there as well as the vehicle, just everything you would expect. They've also added in, I believe, it's the Stormhawk Interceptor as well, so you've got a new flyer chucked in there as well. Pretty much all the same rules across the board and points that you would expect for these units on a Space Marine standard over to the Space Wolves Codex, obviously factoring in things like FAQ changes as well. But you've now got those options in your arsenal to play with. We all knew that was coming. More importantly though, let's talk about one of the new units that's actually been added, and it's quite a fun wee unit. It's the Wolfen dreadnought. So your Wolfen dreadnought, guys, is essentially an elite choice unit. Really fun, packs a punch. Let's have a chat. So your Wolfen dreadnought, it's got your standard 8-inch movement, 3 up weapon skill, 5 up ballistic skill, strength 6, toughness 7, wounds 8, attacks 4, leadership 7, 3 up armor. Excellent, and it can kit it out just like you would your Venerable Dreadnought. You can have your Great Wolf Claw, you can have your Fenrisian Great Axe, you can even give your Wolfen Dreadnought a Blizzard Shield, and we'll come on to that in a moment because that's been a real issue for topic among Space Wolf players in the last few days and weeks. A lot of rumours kicking about. But essentially, your Wolfen dreadnought is a standard dreadnought with the capability of Murderlust. Murderlust is a rule that only affects the dreadnought, so not your standard Wolfen rules where it has a range and aura ability, I guess, and it impacts units in different unique ways. Murderlust is a rule for the Wolfen dreadnought. You can reroll failed charges. Sure, I'll take it. That sounds a lot of fun to me, especially if I'm going to get those +1 to my hit rolls with this dreadnought. That's absolutely solid. But the two armory unit items you can take there, the Great Fenrisian Great Axe and Blizzard Shield. Let's have a wee pause and a wee talk about these. So, interestingly enough, the Fenrisian Great Axe first has had a subtle change. So in the index version, it was simply +4 strength, -3 d6 damage, and you can make 1 additional attack. That's changed now. You've got 2 modes of swinging this axe. You've got the cleave mode and you've got the scythe mode. Cleave mode is essentially the big powerful version. That's your +4 strength, your -3, your d6 damage. However, when you're attacking with this weapon, you must now subtract 1 from hit rolls. But remember guys, if you've managed to get that charge off, or you're being charged, you can kind of go back, reset to your 3+ to hit, which is really handy. And this is why I'm saying this new ability, Hunters Unleashed, has actually got such a massive impact on the way Space Wolf players will play the game. The second mode is Scythe. Really simple, strength user, -3, damage 1, but you'll make 2 hit rolls for each attack that you've made with this weapon instead of 1. So your 4 attacks becomes 8 attacks with this axe. Maybe not as good as the cleave version overall, because the cleave version is doing a heck of a lot more damage, but maybe against a unit of 10 marines is certainly the more effective way to probably kick about with your axe. But then let's move on to the real topic of debate, and guys, that is the Blizzard Shield. You've all seen the rumours have definitely been confirmed as well, and I'm going to confirm it on this side. The Blizzard Shield has been changed from your 3-up invul save to a 4-up invul save. Now, before you're all screaming down my throat saying I hate it, it's a terrible rule change, I disagree. It's something I've actually asked for, a little nerf to that weapon, or that ability, sorry, because I felt it was too strong. I felt on a dreadnought which is already hard as nails, already quite powerful, stacking a 3-up invul is maybe a bit much, and the price you paid for it seemed a little bit cheap. So you've now got a 4-up invul, a 50-50 chance as you wish guys. 4-up invul is as good as any. I'm happy with that. I think that's a fair representation of what a dreadnought should have. Okay, bear in mind it's a bigger shield than a storm shield, so you think it's more powerful, but let's be honest with ourselves guys, a 4-up invul sounds fair. The comment section is probably going to hate me for saying that, but let me know your thoughts down below guys. If you're on board with that change, I know I am on board with that change. Just an interesting wee thought there. Next up, other than that, I think we need to talk a little about a unit that's been removed. Rumours again confirmed guys, Lone Wolf no longer has a data card. Now I'll come back to the Lone Wolf later on in this video, but the Lone Wolf no longer has a data card. Some sad faces, ring the funeral bells, not to be. He'll be reliving in a new guile shortly, and we'll explain what that now looks like for the Lone Wolf. Let's move on though to some characters, and this is where I'm very interested in some of these changes. I won't go through all the character changes, but there's 2 in particular that really caught my eye when reading through the codex. One is probably the change to Crom Dragongaze. Now Crom, I believe in the index and after the chapter approved, I think he was 115 points. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think he was 115, maybe 119 points, something like that, around that mark. Pretty solid character. Stacked the reroll hits of 1, stacked a really powerful axe, was essentially a captain's profile with more attacks. Yeah, sure, sounds really great for those points. Well guys, he's 90 points. I don't know what that screams out in your mind, but that screams out value to me. 90 points. Yeah, 90 points for a guy who is 2-up to hit across the board, strength 4, toughness 4, wounds 5, attacks 5, leadership 9, 3-up armour with a 4-up invul due to Belt of Russ. Yeah, sure, I'll take 90 points worth of you. That is fantastic. He is now pure value, and he'll be featuring in most of my battle reports, I feel. He also has the Fierce Eye, which is essentially all enemy units within 3 inches -1 to leadership. Pretty interesting, not going to do much, but interesting. His axe is still the Worm Claw, obviously +2 strength, -2 AP, damage D3. For 90 points, guys, you're going to struggle to find a more points efficient character in the game than him. I used to always think Lucius Eternal was the most points efficient. I know that's a cause for debate, he dies too easy, but I thought he can dish out damage like no one's business, especially when I've used him. But Crom might have just superseded Lucius for me. That is amazing for 90 points. But let's move on to the real change, the real star of the show, who's changed in the Codex, and that's Logan Grimnar, and especially on the Storm Rider. So before, in the previous Codex, I think Logan Grimnar was stacking, I don't know, 230 points I think it was for the Storm Rider, and 190 points on foot. Yeah, he always felt a little bit too expensive, especially when you get people like Captain Lysander kicking around the Imperium with 150 points, who arguably does what Logan does on foot, but kind of better, points efficient wise. So it was an interesting one, but he's had a change, and this is another change I've been screaming out for, and I'm very happy they've done it. So let's go over that change. Points first of all. He's dropped from the 230 down to 100 and... oh, let me get my page here. 190, guys. Let me just repeat that. He's gone from 230 points on the Storm Rider to 190 on the Storm Rider. He's essentially now costing what he used to be on foot. Sure, that's a good call. I like it. People might say he's too cheap. I think that is a perfect value for this guy. On foot, he's also dropped some points. He's down to 170. Again, maybe not as good as Lysander on foot, but we're getting there. We're certainly getting there. So what's actually changed the data card? And this is the biggest gripe I had about Logan Grimnar. I always felt when I fielded him, he just gets shot off the battlefield because he had a 3-up armor save and he was as good as toast. He was just a big, massive distract effects. Everyone put their firepower in him and he was gone. And I never got to have any fun in using that beautiful model on his sleigh. Well, they've given him what we've all asked for. He's now got survivability in the form of the Storm Rider 2-up armor save. 2-up armor save and a 4-up invul due to the Belt of Russ. 2-up, 4-up, he's got 12 wounds, toughness 6. Now this feels like a model that might last a bit longer, and I'm going to get some fun rolling some dice and measuring his charges out on the battlefield. I'll quickly run over his stats for those who don't know. He does have 2+ across the board for weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength 4, toughness 6 as I mentioned, wounds 12, attacks 5, leadership 9. He does also have the Axe of Mordecai, which has his one-handed and two-handed weapon. Now one-handed, it's obviously +2 strength, -3 D3 damage. Two-handed is his massive ×2 strength, making him strength 8, -3, guaranteed 3 damage, but he subtracts 1 from his hit rolls. But let's refer back to that Hunter's Unleashed. You're getting your +1 if you charged or were charged or heroically intervened. So now Logan can swing more efficiently. His points have been dropped, he's more survivable, he's now hitting with the Axe of Mordecai. I can't count how many times I've swung the Axe of Mordecai using the two-handed version and rolled 2s. It happens. I'm now feeling more confident I might get away with it. Purely because he has the Great Wolf ability. Reroll all failed hits for units within 6 inches. He also has the High King of Fenris. All Wolfguard are essentially immune to morale within 6 inches. He also has the Alpha Predators. He gets to reroll charges. We love it. Logan feels like Logan. He's obviously got his good old fancy Turnak and Fenrir, the Wolves, which gives him 6 additional attacks when he's at peak efficiency. When I mean peak efficiency, I mean he's got 7 to 12 wounds. He's not really took too much damage yet. And those are 6 additional attacks at strength 5, -1 damage. This guy can really take on really anything. Something big, something small, something horde. Logan's going to kick about. Let me know your thoughts on the changes to Logan there, guys. I honestly think that is how Logan should be. I'm very proud they've made those changes. I think Logan is going to be a ton of fun, and you're certainly going to see me featuring him on the battlefield. Other than that, there's a few changes to other characters, a few subtle ones, but other than that, they look all nice, they look all fun. I'll let you guys decide your thoughts on when you get the Codex to see for yourself. Other than the units, I kind of want to move on to other elements of the Codex. We've discussed a few changes to characters there, but let's actually talk about the Psychic phase, probably my most favourite phase in Warhammer 40k. There's been a few new spells added, a few new additions. We've obviously got the good old-fashioned -1 Tempest Wrath. You can choose an enemy unit within 24 inches, they're -1 to hit until your next Psychic phase. value 6, always good. Good old Jars of the Whirlwolf, roll 2d6, difference is mortal wounds, always nice, 7 to cast. You've also got Stormcaller still there, value 8 to cast, all units within 6 inches get benefit of cover. But what's really been added? There's obviously been a few more that's been added, but I only want to go about this one. Let's talk about one for you today. Fury of the Wolf Spirits. Now this is my kind of psychic power. Fury of the Wolf Spirits has a warp charge of 7. If manifested, the Rune Priest gains the following weapon until the start of the next phase. They'll get Frecky and Gary. Sound familiar? Frecky and Gary. After the Rune Priest makes his close combat attacks, you can attack with Frecky and Gary, make 6 additional attacks using the following profile. Wait till you hear this. Strength 5, -3, damage 1. So you'll do all your plethora of attacks, comfortably knowing you've got another 6 to come. That is phenomenal. I really like that spell. That is a ton of fun and what I would purely expect from a Space Wolf spell. Other than that, we've also got a few relics. Obviously the good old fashioned Kraken Bone Sword is in there, guys. But what else do we have? We've got the Armour of Rust, which is very interesting. I won't go through all its details, but the biggest ones you want to kind of draw from this. It comes with a 4-up invul save, and in addition, at the start of the fight phase, choose an enemy unit within 1 inch of this model. The unit cannot fight, the unit cannot be chosen to fight in the fight phase until all other units able to fight have done so. You're essentially putting a unit to last. That's like your good old fashioned 2 command points, interrupt the fight phase to fight next, but you're kind of skipping that with that relic, and it's a solid relic, 4-up invul. More additionally, you know, if there's other rules which allow you to go first, you have to then alternate, but it's a nice wee one. You've also got the Frost Fury, which is really nice. It's basically replace your Stormbolter. Frost Fury is dangerous. Assault 4, Strength 4, -1, 2 damage. You've got a very powerful damaging Stormbolter there, but it's got a nice wee ability. If the model suffers an unsaved wound from this weapon but is not slain, roll a d6. On a 4+, they'll suffer a mortal wound. Some really nice stuff there. I'm loving what they've done with the relics in the psychic phase. It feels right. It feels Space Wolfy. Let me know your thoughts on that, guys, but I love it. Moving on to some of the stratagems next. I'm only going to pick out a few here, just some interesting ones. And the ones that I've seen that I really enjoy was the Wolf's Eye and Keen Senses. Both for 1 command point, but you can stack these with Long Fangs and other units pretty nicely. So let's start with the Wolf's Eye. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a unit of Long Fangs from your army is chosen to make its attacks. You can reroll either failed hit rolls or failed wound rolls for that unit in that phase. Now we all know, guys, your Wolfen have choose an enemy target at the start of the shooting phase, reroll hits of 1 against that unit. So you've already got good reroll hits anyway. Most likely you have a captain there, sorry, not a captain, you may have Logan there to give you all rerolls, but more importantly, you're probably going to pick the wounds for your Long Fangs, because that means you're getting reroll hits of 1 probably against the target you're choosing, and you're rerolling your wound rolls against it. You're most likely going to get those big heavy weapons through. We're going to stack that with Keen Senses. Use this stratagem in the shooting phase, choose a Space Wolves unit from your army. The unit doesn't suffer any penalties for hit rolls this phase. Well, there's you against a Tyrannid army with big monsters and lots of Venom Thropes all over the place and Malanthropes kicking about, and there's -1 for days. Not today. My Long Fangs are going to hit you, and I'm going to hit you hard, because I'm also going to use Wolf's Eye and reroll my wounds. Guys, that is some solid stratagems there. It has its use, has its purpose. I highly like that. Because also it's not specifying if it's infantry or cavalry, you can use Keen Senses, which again is the no penalties to hit, on certain units like vehicles and things like that. So you've got some nice combinations to actually play around with there. Really, really like that. But I mentioned a few minutes ago, for those who remember, the Lone Wolf data card was removed. Don't panic, guys. The Lone Wolf is still here in a different form. The Lone Wolf is essentially a stratagem now. Kind of hard to pull off, but it is a stratagem now. It's for 1 command point, the Lone Wolf. You use this stratagem at the end of the phase if there's a Space Wolf infantry unit from your army other than a character, servitor or Wolfen that has been reduced to a single wound. The model's wounds characteristic is increased by 2, so it gains 2 wounds, and it gains the character keyword, and you can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for the remainder of the game. Yeah. Maybe not as good as taking an actual dedicated Lone Wolf, but you're essentially getting a lone wolf there. Think about it. You've got I don't know, you've got your grey hunters, and you've got a pack leader with wolf claws. There you go. Reduced down to the unit has been reduced obviously to a single wound, a single model. That's absolutely fine. There you go. Give them 2 extra wounds, reroll hits and reroll wounds. There you go. Solid. Even put a power fist, for example. Fantastic. Just have that little annoying unit for 1 command point. And we know how easy it is to get command points from battalions now. Save that 1 command point. You might get the opportunity because your opponent might fail to kill all the models. Boom, there you go. You've got a lone wolf kicking about. Your opponent will be furious. I know my opponent will be furious. There's a ton of other stratagems in there. You've also got the ones you would expect from the Space Marines Codex, like Kill Shot, Flak Missile. They're all in there. There's a lot to chew through. I could be at this for days reading them all out, but that's just some that I've picked out that really appeal to me in my playstyle. More importantly, let's have a chat about Warlord traits. So moving into Warlord traits, this is quite an interesting one, and I'm sure everyone's seen it on the Warhammer community updates. You've now got Warlord traits, and you've also got sagas. What it basically translates to, guys, is your Warlord traits are basically double-edged. They come with 2 abilities. You've actually got the Warlord trait itself, and then you've got a saga, which is if you do a certain heroic deed, or deed of legend as it's called, with your Warlord, you will gain an aura ability, which we assume at this stage will actually have a standard aura ability, maybe 6-inch range, and it will impact your army as a whole. However, interestingly enough, as much as I have access to the Codex, it's not in the Codex. So I can only assume that that means your sagas will actually come maybe as part of the data cards, or a separate sort of release. All the Codex actually has, guys, is the Warlord's traits. I know the Warhammer community doesn't quite go into it in detail, and they show you 2 screenshots. One is Saga of the Bear and one is Saga of the Beast Slayer. Just to clarify, guys, what they're showing you there is not actually your Warlord trait. That is the sagas, which is essentially the ability you can gain if you do your heroic deed of legend. I'll just quickly touch on some of the Warlord traits though, and I'll touch on the 2 that they actually touch on in Warhammer community. So if we go with the Saga of the Bear, which is the one that they're showing at the moment, the actual Warlord trait is increase your Warlord's wound characteristic by 1. So that is really handy, pretty standard now across codexes. But if you do this deed of legend, and your character has that Warlord trait, Saga of the Bear, your deed of legend is essentially successfully pass a saving throw and you will achieve that saga. The saga for the bear is roll a dice each time a model affected by the saga loses a wound. On a 6, that model does not lose a wound, and the saga has no effect on models with a similar ability, which you'd expect, your venerable dreadnoughts, your Bjorn the Fell-Handed. So again, you've got your Warlord trait, and then you've got your saga, which is really cool. I like the mechanic. You're essentially getting 2 abilities for the price of 1, and it's making you want to use those characters more heroically, as they should. You're a Space Wolf player. I'll just touch on the second one that they represent in the Warhammer community for you, which is Saga of the Beast Slayer. Now, Saga of the Beast Slayer's Warlord trait is you can add 1 wound, to your wound roll, for your Warlord's attacks that target a monster or vehicle. So that's your Warlord's attacks when you target a monster or vehicle. Now, your deed of legend to achieve the saga for that is slay an enemy monster or vehicle with your Warlord. Fair enough. Probably not as easy to achieve as Saga of the Bear, but fair enough. If you achieve that, you're then granted the Aura ability Saga. Add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made by a unit affected by this saga that targets a monster or vehicle. So we are still kind of in the dark a little bit over the sagas, and fair play, Games Workshop, you want to keep that card close to your chest. We appreciate that. That'll be a lovely release when we find out more about the sagas, as there is 6 Warlord traits to go around and we only know 2. The other sort of Warlord traits are pretty standard to do impact leadership, morale and stuff like that. But I just wanted to show you again, guys, just to clarify, a Space Wolf Codex now has a Warlord trait, and then it has a saga, which is now demonstrated on the Warhammer community. If you achieve your deed of legend to gain the saga for your character, that will grant your character the Aura ability, which we assume at this stage will impact the army as a whole. Overall, I have to be honest and say I think the Codex is a lot of fun. From what I've seen, you've got access now to a massive tool chest of units, which they already had, but you've now definitely got a lot more units to play with. They've added just enough, adding the Wolfen in there, which is the Wolfen dreadnought, which is really nice, adding the Primaris, and they've made a few subtle changes to characters like Crom, for example, and Logan. They are now a ton of fun, and I hope you guys agree. I'm very conscious and looking forward to see what your comments are on the Codex, but I, for one, feel this is the right move, especially with that Blizzard Shield. It just feels more balanced. Again, there's a lot of people that are going to hate me for that, but it's just my honest opinion there, guys. So, a ton of stuff for you to mull over there, guys. A lot of new stratagems, a lot of new psychic powers, a lot of fun play style with Space Wolves. I hope you've enjoyed this. Just a wee heads up before the pre-orders come out, and before you guys get an access to your book. But yeah, for all you Space Wolf players out there, let me know your thoughts. I've been David from Tabletop Assault. I really hope to see you all again. Another battle report coming your way very, very soon. We've got a ton of Space Wolf ones planned. We hope you guys are going to love it. But we'll see you next time on another one of our Tabletop Assault battle reports.